Hi folks. Normally I like to shoot inside the studio where I have a little better lighting, but this morning we have some cloudy skies and I've had a little bit of rain today and it feels really nice out here on the back porch. So hopefully we won't get too much jet noise or too much barking dogs or something like that. But I just wanted to kind of say today is Thursday, and Thursday and Monday are going to be important days for our class. If this was meeting in person, we would meet 2 times a week or maybe even 3 times a week. So I'd like you to kind of fix in your calendar brain Monday and Thursday as days that are going to be important. And the reason they're going to be important is because I'll be posting activities for you to do, and I'll be posting due dates. The due dates will usually be Sunday night and Wednesday night. So that gives me a chance to try and grade and make any comments that I can make to you. So I do want you to take notes on activities. I'm going to show you a little bit about the format that I'd like you to do. And I would like you to keep a logbook. So hopefully you've noticed in the syllabus that an organized notebook is going to be very helpful for you for 2 reasons. If you are reading or viewing a video and you're not taking notes, it's very easy for your mind to wander. So many studies in education have talked about active participation, even though you may not be speaking. If you're reading your note, if you're reading your textbook, if you're reading some sort of thing that I've asked you to review on the internet, if you're watching videos, I'd like you to take notes. Now, here is an example of just the format for your log. All you have to do is pick one piece of paper. It'll probably last you for the whole semester, and just put a heading up on top of it, ARH115 logbook, and it's going to ask you, okay, on this date, and then you put down what day you are working, what date, and then just approximately, you can say I'm starting at 9 a.m. and then when you finish, you put down I'm done at 9:30. And the activity, reading my textbook or watching a video. So this is the logbook that I would like to have you keep. And we're not really a face-to-face class, so I can't give you a pop quiz, but I can ask you to take a picture of your logbook and turn that in so that I can see that you are actively engaging in the coursework in the class. Now, I had an English teacher friend, and they said people tend to cram way too much information into their notes. So I took his advice, and I've taken several refresher classes and different topics, and I've always used what's called a double entry journal format. And this is a really easy thing because you don't have to have any fancy printouts or anything like that. You just take your notebook paper, you take your notebook that you're working with, and when you flip the page, you draw about one third of the way in, you draw a vertical line. Okay, so over here on one side, you're going to put a question mark, and this is for questions and comments that pop up in your brain as you are actively watching or actively reading your book. If you're not writing any questions down, probably you're not engaged in the information. If you find some passage in the book that you disagree with, over here you write down, grrr, I don't agree with that, okay? So this is a place for you to write down your responses to things. Now, as far as the notes go, I'd like you to do something that graphic designers call utilize white space. I want you to use a lot of white space. Now, if I'm writing along and I come along with a fact, I will reduce that fact, use my own words, not copy it out of the book, but I'll reduce that fact into one clump of information. And then as I'm reading further and I have another note that I need to take, I'm going to put that with what's called white space in between. If you have these separations between blocks of facts and blocks of information, you're going to find it much, much easier to review, and if memorization is needed, you're going to find it easier to memorize by having this white space around what you're doing. I know this is the digital age, and people like to sit down with a keyboard and they like to take their notes on the keyboard, but one more time, educational research has actually proven that using handwritten notes is going to engage your learning brain better than tapping away at some keystrokes. So I have heard the objection in the past from the environmentalists, and I am an environmentalist, and people say, well, Mr. Gross, that's just a huge waste of paper, because you could cram all those notes into one page, but you've got to balance your learning against conservation. And if you're a responsible person, when the course is over, not before, but when the course is over, you can recycle your paper and it will go on to do something extra besides having given you a chance to learn. Now, as the class unfolds, you'll be asked to memorize slides. And in Canvas, you're going to look underneath your files. There's a Files tab, and there's going to be a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint is going to have 30 pictures and information about those pictures. During this class, we have 16 weeks, and I'm going to ask you to memorize, that was the big word right there, I'm going to ask you to memorize the information, key information about 30 pictures. And we'll spread it out. We'll just say on this first week we need to do these 3 pictures. Next time we're going to take 2 pictures. After that we might take 4 pictures. So by the time we get done with the class, we're going to have visual literacy. We're going to have, at the tip of our tongues, we're going to be able to say, that looks like F-64 school. Even though you don't know exactly who did it, you're going to be able to place it, and you're going to say, that's pretty soft focus, black and white. I'm going to guess that that's photo secessionism. So that's one of your responsibilities as a student of art history or a student of photo history, that you walk away with what I'm going to call stepping stones. These are important names. These are important styles. And for you to be walking into a photo gallery with your portfolio, and the knowledgeable gallery owners maybe giving you a portfolio review, and they might be flipping through and they might say, oh, I detect a little bit of Ansel Adams in here. And you're going to say, well, F-64 was an influence on me, but I kind of like Weston better. You are going to sound like you can talk the talk. When you're a photographer and you're out there taking the pictures, you're walking the walk. But it's important for you, just in general, in everyday life, to become knowledgeable about different authors and different books. It's also important for you to become visually literate, and that's the way we're going to do it. So I would suggest that you download the PowerPoint. It's called Timeline of Photography. I would suggest that you download it, and then you can just take your X-Acto knife and you can cut these into nice bands, and then you can take one of these bands and fold it over. So we're going to have our picture on one side, and we're going to have our information on the other side. Now, what's important? I will tell you one thing: titles are not that important. It's nice to know the title, but you'll be surprised, especially with older work. The title of a picture can change depending on who owned it and depending on what gallery has it. So as I'm looking on the back of my card here, I see that Muybridge was the artist that did this running horse picture. Yes, that is important that we know Muybridge, okay? The title, The Galloping Horse, nah, don't even worry about that. The genre or the style is scientific, okay? So we want to know that this is an example of scientific photography, and it's also going to be important to know the date, okay? Now there are some mean old art history teachers that will require you to know the date exact. I'm not a mean old photo history teacher. I want you to know generally, okay? So this one says 1878. If you write down 1880, or if you write down 1870, or maybe even 1890, or 1860, you'll get credit because you're in the right area. And don't worry about spelling. There are some mean old art history teachers that want you to spell Caravaggio exactly letter for letter. I'm not that mean old teacher. Spell it phonetically, okay? Muybridge. It doesn't have to be exact. But important thing, you're going to know the style of photography is scientific. The guy's name is Muybridge. It was done around 1880, and that is the type of visual literacy that I'm going to be asking you to do. So after you have folded this in half, get out your friendly glue stick, put a little bit of glue in there, and glue it together. And before you know it, you're going to have a deck of cards, okay? I know some people want to have a digital deck of cards. There are programs where you can make digital flashcards. I'm a little bit old school about that, and I like to be able to split my deck up into smaller pieces. I like to change things around. If I'm doing my studying, if I've mastered something, I like to put it to one side. I know you can do all of that on your digital platform as well, but I like the tactile sensation of holding rather poor productions, sorry. They're not gallery quality reproductions, but that should be enough to give you some ideas of what to do. So let's see whether I have covered what I need to cover here. I see it's starting to rain a little bit. That's nice. Okay, I have demonstrated flashcards and logbook. About your assignments. When you listen to me on a YouTube video, I flunked out of DJ school. I'm not fast with my words. So lucky for you, and I hope you've discovered this by now, you can choose a playback speed that's quicker. If you're taking notes, you might want to just let the soundtrack go at its regular speed, because that'll give you time to take some notes. And when you're taking notes, don't sweat things like negative. If you're writing negative and you're used to calling it a neg, just write down neg. If you need an and in there, just use it's kind of like a shorthand, just use an and sign. The most important thing about notes are that they are succinct, and and they're only really made for you, as you read them, you can understand them. So don't make them so short that you can't understand them, but don't hesitate to use shorthand when you're taking notes. So if you're taking notes from one of my videos, you might want to adjust the playback speed. Look for a gear icon at the bottom of the YouTube screen and choose 1.25